A programming note for those who are joining us or watching from home. We are working out a couple of technical kinks, this being our first meeting back to virtual for a little while. So please bear with us for a minute or two and we'll get started once we've got everyone able to connect. So hang with us for just another moment, please.
Yeah, I'm Chair Hendrickson. Is it all right if I once again end the meeting and I'm going to remove Director Schmidt as a host? That way we'll be able to promote him to a panelist through a normal mechanism. My apologies. We'll get this set right now.
That's fine. To the members of the public, before we go, the meeting is going to end briefly. I do apologize for everyone having to do this, but if you would please log back in about a minute, and we'll give everyone a moment or two to join back in. So they're going to go ahead and shut this off, and then we'll rejoin shortly. Thank you.
Recording in progress.
Well, the Planning Commission members are able to join much quicker each time. And we got Tim. All right.
Apologies, everyone. I'm not sure. Good job, IT. Thank you for getting me figured out here.
We're going to give the members of the public another moment or two to rejoin since they've been on the roller coaster here with us. I know I saw quite a few members joining earlier, so we'll give them a moment to get here so they don't miss public remarks, and we'll get started probably around 7:05. It looks like we've got everyone except for Commissioner Primo back. I know I saw him a minute ago, so hopefully he'll be able to jump back in as well. Okay. Well, hopefully Commissioner Primo will be able to join us here shortly. We have to wait a little bit already. It is 7:05, and we'll go ahead and call the regular meeting of the Planning Commission. Oh, good, there he is. The regular meeting of the Planning Commission of the Charter Township of Meridian to order this October 11th, 2021 at 7 p.m. We are meeting virtually again. Thank you to everyone for being flexible with that. And thank you to the members of the public who are willing to join us online as well. We certainly appreciate that. First up, we're going to do roll call, and I'll remind the commissioners, since we are participating remotely, that you'll have to let us know that you are participating remotely and where from as we go through. So we'll start things off with Commissioner McConnell.
Present from Meridian Township.
Commissioner Primo.
Present from Meridian Township, Okemos.
Thank you. Commissioner Cordell.
Participating from Meridian Township.
Thank you. Commissioner Shrewsbury.
Excuse me, I'm also participating remotely from Meridian Township in Okemos.
Thank you. Commissioner Richards.
Participating remotely from Meridian Township.
Thank you. Commissioner Bloomer.
Present from my home in Meridian Township.
Thank you. Commissioner Snyder.
Present from my home in Meridian Township too.
Thank you. Commissioner Trezise.
Present from my home in Meridian Township.
And Chair Hendrickson is present, participating remotely from my home in Meridian Township. So thank you, everyone. Okay, first up this evening on our agenda is public remarks. There will be 1, 2, 3 opportunities for public remarks this evening. Right now, at the conclusion of the meeting and during our public hearing. I'll remind everyone that during the public hearing, you must speak only on the topic at hand for the public hearing. Now and at the end of the meeting, you may speak on any topic. Public remarks in all three at all 3 times will be 3 minutes in length maximum. And we'll ask you to please state your name and address for the record when it is your time. That said, if you would like to indicate that you would like to speak, we'd ask that you, if you are in the Zoom meeting, please use the raise hand feature, and our staff will go ahead and promote you to a panelist so that you may speak. And then if you are at home and would like to participate in the meeting, you can give us a call, and the call-in number is 517-349-1232, and our staff will put you through to the Planning Commission. With that said, anyone from the public wishing to speak before the Planning Commission at this time, please either call or raise your hand. Don't see any hands going up in the Zoom participants pane. Do we have anyone calling in, Director Geeves?
We have no calls at this time, sir.
Okay. All right, well, with that said, we'll go ahead and close public remarks then and move on to our next agenda item, which is approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda this evening? Moved by Commissioner Bloomer. Do we have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Cordell. Thank you. Any adjustments to the agenda this evening? I have one that was requested by staff who sent out 7 additional communications in support of the agenda, the public hearing agenda item this evening. That would be special use permit number 21-9519151, pardon me. So if it would be considered a friendly amendment by the motion maker, we'll go ahead and amend the agenda to add those communications to the agenda.
I'll accept that.
Please do so.
Okay. Any other changes or amendments to the agenda this evening? Seeing none, all those in favor of the agenda say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, and the agenda passes as amended. Next up is approval of minutes. We have 1 set of minutes from our September 27th, 2021 regular meeting. We have a motion for the minutes this evening. Moved by Commissioner McConnell. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Trezise. Any changes, changes or amendments to the minutes this evening? Commissioner Cordell.
It looks like I was promoted on page 3, promoted to being chair on the top of the page instead of Commissioner Cordell.
Congratulations. All right, we'll go ahead and make that Commissioner Cordell. That sounds right. Any other changes or amendments?
That's acceptable as a friendly amendment.
Thank you. All right, then, seeing no other changes, all those in favor of the minutes as amended, say aye.
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 Any opposed? And the minutes pass. Okay, so next up is communications. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We had 10 communications that were listed in the packet. 7 that came late and that were added to the agenda this evening. So 17 total. Thank you to the members of the public for speaking out on this SUP that's before us this evening. Next up is our public hearing, which is special use permit number 21-95151, 3654 Okemos Road, a modification to a special use permit, Cedar Classical Academy. And we will open the public hearing at 7:11. And I'll go ahead and take this moment to just give a brief overview of the format of the public hearing so that we're all understanding how this is going to work. First up, we'll have an overview from Director Schmidt, who is Meridian Township's staff, and then we will give the applicant an opportunity to speak to this special use permit application. After that, public will have their time to speak, 3 minutes each, and then the commissioners will discuss and debate the special use permit in front of us. So with that said, we'll turn things over to Director Schmidt.
Thank you very much. Director Geeves, Caroline Hummel is the applicant in this case. If you could bring her over, that'd be great. So she'll be able to speak in a moment. So briefly, the request in front of you this evening is a relatively minor modification to a previously approved special use permit on the site at 3654 Okemos Road. So this is the existing church building on the site, the Lansing Chinese Christian Church. Site has been subject to a number of SUPs over the year. Originally it was Cornerstone Assembly of God. Eventually it was purchased by Lansing Chinese Christian Church. And then several years ago, the Cedar Classical Academy approached the township in 2019 about opening a K-8 school in a portion of the building. The time they were starting out, and that was the scale of students they were expecting at the time. There were no major concerns because they were operating opposite of the church, so Monday through Friday 8 to 3, whereas the church typically operates on Sundays and some weekend evenings. Those hours and things of that nature haven't changed, so functionally it's the same request that was approved in 2019. What you're seeing at this point is they are requesting to expand from K-8 to K-12. They have a cohort of students that have gone through the school up to this point, and they see opportunity to continue that up to grade 12, and that's the request in front of you this evening. So what this is essentially is, as part of the approval in 2019, there was a condition of approval, and it was part of their application at the time actually, was that they would be limited to K-8, and that in the future, an amendment beyond that, an expansion of the grades, would require an amendment to the SUP and an updated traffic generation analysis or traffic assessment. So that is what's in front of you this evening. They have provided a letter from Progressive AE that's in your packet this evening. Something like this is going to generate little to no traffic at best, and wouldn't go much beyond what was there previously. So it does not rise to the level of requiring an actual traffic study or traffic assessment under our ordinance. They are planning for in the future an expansion to the building, but this time that expansion is not being requested. They're simply requesting a modification to the condition to allow for K-12 students to be at the school. That's the nuts and bolts of the application. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but I know the applicant is here and would be happy to tell you all about how things are going there.
Thank you, Director Schmidt. Would the applicant like to speak on behalf of the application at this time? All right, the floor is yours.
Caroline Hummel. This is my husband, Jack. He's the head of school here, and I'm the one who prepared the application. I'm the chair of our building committee. We're really excited to be here tonight. 2 years ago, we were here in the same situation, asking for permission to be K-8, and we weren't sure how it was going to go, but it's gone really well. We've grown from 32 students to 60, and next year,
Sorry, Ms. Hummel, your audio seems to have cut out for a moment. Can you start back after we grew to 60?
I think we lost them.
you lost us for a second. Did you ask us a question?
Yeah, we heard you up until you said you grew to 60.
Oh, and we're just really excited that you're considering our application.
Excellent. Okay, we'll go ahead and turn things over to public remarks. Any members of the public wishing to speak at this time may do so to a maximum of 3 minutes. If you're in the Zoom meeting and would like to speak on this topic, you can go ahead and use the raise hand feature. Otherwise, you can give us a call at 517-349-1232. And we'll go ahead and open the floor for public remarks. Even anyone on the phones?
No, sir, we have no calls at this time.
Okay. Oh, I did see a hand briefly. Kristen Pang, we promote them, please.
Hi.
Please go ahead and give us your name and address at the beginning of your remarks.
I'm Timothy Pang. I'm using my wife's account. And yes, I'm the pastor at the Lansing Chinese Christian Church of the building. And we just really want to say we really appreciate the school being there. And it works out really well for the both of us. And we really appreciate the township gave us the permission a few years ago. And, we just really appreciate your time for us. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public wishing to address the Planning Commission? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public remarks at this time and move on to Planning Commission discussion. Any commissioners wishing to ask any questions or make any comments or statements about this SUP in front of us? Commissioner Shrewsbury.
Hi, I just had one quick question for the applicant. It seems like you have a lot of support for this, so and it's still a fairly small site, but moving to high school from middle school, that sometimes involves students who are of driving age. And I'm wondering if you are in your planning for expansion, you're considering having students drive to and from school in addition to parental drop off, and or if you plan to have a closed campus, or will the students be able to leave at lunchtime?
Yeah, when students reach driving age, they would be able to drive to and from school, but it will be a closed campus. No students leaving during the day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Primo.
You probably said this and I didn't hear it. And if I didn't, I apologize, but do you have an estimate of the numbers that we might be talking about that would enroll?
So our 5-year plan is looking at 100 students by 2026. That's what we're estimating. It's hard for us to plan, 10, 15 years out, but I think that ultimately our enrollment would just be limited by the property. I think that there's a functional cap on students based on how many classrooms we have, etc. The site plan amendment that we might propose in the next few months would only be adding 3 classrooms. So we would still be growing incrementally. There'd be lots of functional caps on how many students we could have. And overall, we just have a slow growth philosophy where we're only adding, 1 grade each year, a dozen students each year. So does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. And so eventually you're saying the total enrollment would be about 100.
That's what we're anticipating in the next 5 years, but we don't have a target final enrollment for what we would be in, 15 years.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bloomer.
I'm just curious, does your school handle all educational requirements for the students, or do you have cooperative agreements with other educational facilities?
Yes, we handle all of the educational requirements. We have only gone K through 8, so 9 through 12 will be the next big phase in the curricular programming that we offer.
Thank you.
I've got a question for staff, if I could. I noticed in the packet there were several sort of informal blueprints that were forward-looking as to additions to the building, and the applicant just alluded to one such that would be a site plan amendment. These changes to the building, would these be allowable by right, or approvable by the staff level, or would they come back before us at some point?
The building is well under the threshold to require a special use permit for modification, so it would be an administrative review of a site plan.
Okay.
Is obviously assuming it meets all the ordinance requirements.
Sure. Okay. Commissioner McConnell.
Yeah, thanks. A few comments on why I support this application. I think this is a great use for the site. I think from an environmental standpoint, using a building that's otherwise unoccupied makes so much more sense than building new or demolishing. From the traffic standpoint, I didn't believe the traffic numbers when I first saw them, but then I realized that the parents, staff, and volunteers are carpooling in, and from a transportation standpoint, those are carpooling numbers that you never see. I was also happy to see in the application that you're interested in stewardship of the wetland. And you might be interested, the township board has been supporting some green infrastructure projects in the school system, and ways to use those as educational resources abound. And you might be interested in contacting the township's environmental coordinator, Leroy Harvey, for those kind of information and maybe support. Thanks for bringing this to us.
Thank you, Commissioner McConnell. Any other comments on this? Commissioner Cordell.
Oh, thank you. I'm in favor of this project. The school has operated for some time since it was first granted the SUP in 2019, and it's an ample site, greater than it would actually need. The uptick in traffic is really negligible, like just was mentioned, and this proposal is using what is existing anyway in terms of square footage of the building. I wish them success in expanding.
Thank you, Commissioner Cordell. Just to follow up, Director Schmidt, do you know what the square footage of this building is at present? Or perhaps the applicant might know that.
It is, 2 seconds to get to the right spot here.
I beat you, Tim. It's 14,800.
There you go.
Perfect. Thank you. That's very helpful. Yeah, I echo the statements of my colleagues. I was here in the 2019 SUP when that came up, and was very pleased with the success. It's it's sort of flown under the radar, I think, for a lot of folks in Meridian Township, but I'm very pleased that a lot of the families clearly support the school environment that the applicants have created and fostered over the last couple of years, and the fact that that those parents are interested in continuing their education here is the best kind of statement that you can make about a school. I commented to my wife, who's a teacher, at how many parents were calling your school a blessing. And that, I think, it's really telling, you know, that you guys are doing a great job. And from the township's perspective, certainly have been doing everything we asked of you. And we're glad to see you back here before us. And that, you know, that shows that, you know, from your perspective, you're seeing success. And I wish you the best of luck in your expansion and as you move forward.
It sounds like we don't have any major objections, so I would suggest we vote.
So we generally would wait until our next meeting, unless we suspended the bylaws, which has not been requested at this time.
I get it. I apologize.
Commissioner McConnell, were you looking to make another comment? Saw your hand briefly up.
I was fumbling with my hand. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Well, at this time, if there's no other comments, I don't see anyone itching to raise their hand. We'll go ahead to the straw poll. So the straw poll is a tool that we use.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, the straw poll is a tool that we use to provide staff with direction when it comes to crafting a resolution for the Planning Commission to consider at our next meeting. It is by no means a binding or final decision by the Planning Commission, but it does give our staff an opportunity to sort of get pointed in the right direction. So at this time, we'll go ahead and go through our straw poll, and we'll see what direction we can offer Director Schmidt as he and his staff create a resolution for our next meeting. So we'll start with Commissioner McConnell.
Support.
Commissioner Primo.
Support.
Commissioner Cordell.
I support it, but don't we already have a resolution to approve? We would just have to endorse.
That's true.
Thank you.
Yeah. Commissioner Shrewsbury.
I also support.
Thank you. Commissioner Richards.
Yes.
Commissioner Bloomer.
Support.
Commissioner Snyder.
Support.
Commissioner Trezise.
Support, but I have a couple of questions with regard to the proposed resolution, which I assume we'll see next time. The application makes reference to putting on an addition, but you've indicated it's not going to be done at this time. And the resolution makes reference to floor plans from RMD architects with, my question is, without a planned expansion, is that appropriate in the resolution?
Dr. Schmidt.
You know, I would say that it's general basis for the approval. We're obviously not trying to hide anything. This is what the proposal is. And so generally with a special use permit, we try to have that kind of information. So given that it's referencing it, we would expect them to be generally in roughly this format for the expansion. That gives them the ability to develop the site plan based off what was approved by the board.
And the site plan would go back to staff and not to the, okay, I'm fine with that. That a question, it seemed like we were getting ahead of the game, but I do support the resolution and the expansion.
Okay. And just to close out that loop, I also would support this this project and proposal. So sounds like we've given some direction to Director Schmidt, and we will see you back in 2 weeks' time for final consideration of your proposal. Commissioner Bloomer.
Just to follow up for a second on Commissioner Tresise's observation, if the proposal that we're going to be voting on next week contains something which Director Schmidt has said will be handled administratively rather than through board action, isn't it needlessly complicating the proposal?
So generally, anytime there is building construction associated with a special use permit, the site plan that follows is almost always administrative. So it's no different than any other request. A floor plan is required to be submitted for a special use permit, so we would expect them to have submitted one. In this case, they're showing sort of their next phase as well in full disclosure. So we could certainly remove the reference, regardless of whether the floor plan is included as part of the resolution language or not, the site plan will be done administratively.
I'm simply concerned that if in the future they realize that they made an error in their prediction, having it in the resolution as approved might complicate their future. If it's not there at all, then it doesn't complicate what they want to do in the future.
That's a fair statement, and we'll have that conversation and see if it makes sense to remove it going forward.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone's weighing in on the resolution. It is nice to have it, at the first meeting too, just so we can have those conversations and we're not trying to strike things out on the fly and confuse our minutes takers. So with that, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 7:31. Thank you very much to the Hummels for joining us, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you so much.
Okay, our next item is unfinished business. We have none. Other business, we have none. So next up, Director Schmidt for our Township Board update. Director Schmidt.
Thank you. So Township Board has been extremely busy, but relatively quiet from a planning commission perspective. The main thing that they've done recently is approval of the Woodward Way project. That will then go, that does need to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals or the Zoning Board of Appeals to amend their previous variances. They're about 3 feet of difference from their original approval. So that's going to have to go back there, which I believe is happening at their next meeting. Township Board did of note to this board and to the general public, the Township Board has, as most communities have, elected to accept the American Rescue Act funding, and they are currently working through a process of how to best go about spending that money. And we anticipate having some public input involved in this process. Staff has received some input from the board, and we're now sort of formulating a bit of a plan to bring back to the board for formal adoption. There's no huge rush on doing this. We want to make sure we get it right. And so at some point in the future, we will obviously be looking for some public input as a township on how that money gets utilized within the community. Additionally, we approved Halloween hours for trick-or-treating this year. So if you have little kids, the press release has gone out. I, off the top of my head, don't remember because I'm trying to find out when East Lansing's are at the same time because I'm just across the street from Meridian Township. So that's the main update I have right now from the Township Board. I'd be happy to answer any questions that commissioners might have.
Well, now I need to know when trick-or-treating is happening.
Give me just a second.
It's fine. It's fine. Any other questions? I look forward to seeing the Woodward Way project for an 18th time at the ZBA in 2 days.
They are trying hard. I have some thoughts.
Yeah.
Trick-or-treating is 6 to 8 on Sunday the 31st.
All right. Very good. Liaison reports. Anyone have any? Okay, I'm back. Commissioner Richards and then Commissioner Primo for liaison reports.
Yeah, mine actually isn't a liaison report, but you keep mentioning the Woodward Way project. For those of us who don't remember that project, what is it?
That is the project at the end of Sear Hall Drive. That's the affordable housing project brought forth by, well, it's not going to help you. It's the Woodward Way Limited Housing Partnership Dividend Corporation or something of that nature.
It also used to be Woda Cooper at one time.
Woda Cooper is the overall master developer, and yeah, it's the affordable housing project on Sear Hall Drive.
Okay.
One that we took up at our last meeting, I think.
That's just the small 2 units.
49 units, 2 buildings.
Oh, that one. Okay.
Located on
Got
the
it.
property behind Whole Foods.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Not to be confused with the one 2 doors down that we had rezoned 4 times.
Right.
Commissioner Primo.
This is a personal note and information. I was scheduled for a major surgery on November 30, which would have put me out of commission for 2 months because I have done some major weight loss. I went to the doctor today and the surgery has been canceled. It is no longer necessary. So hallelujah.
Congratulations.
The only good thing would have been I would have had an excuse to miss 2 months worth of meetings. I'm being facetious. That was great news. And a
All
big
those
relief
bike
to my
rides to
wife.
virtual places turns out did wonders for you, huh?
Yeah, 60
That's great.
pounds.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Any liaison reports? Commissioner McConnell.
Thanks. The Environmental Commission met on October 6th and got an update. I was mentioning the Township Board's grants for green infrastructure to the schools, and a great update of what's going on out in Hazlet if you're interested there. Lots of fun stuff. I also attended a meeting of the Transportation Commission on October 4th. This was a joint meeting with the East Lansing Transportation Commission. And several topics were discussed, but the main item of discussion is the reconfiguration of the intersection at East Lake Lansing Tower and Birch Row. And opinions continue to differ on the possible and appropriate designs for that. But a lot of information is available both through the East Lansing Transportation Commission's site and Meridian, and the Township Deputy Manager Perry did a great job of explaining where the township comes on this one. So if you're interested in that, it's a fascinating conundrum of historical confluence and other how to deal with problems that have grown up over a long time. So thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Bloomer.
Thank you. I attended the Downtown Development Authority meeting. I'm still playing catch up with that committee. I'm still learning what their issues are. It was pretty clear that there was a great deal of, how do I put this? They're getting frustrated with the developer, and it seems like they're very close to taking some action that might actually be looking for a new developer. Also, and that was backed up by Township Supervisor Walsh, who was there and added to the committee, saying that they're very close to saying, the heck with this, we're just going to try somebody new, because there's a lot of frustration with changing demands by the developer. I just before this meeting, about an hour before this meeting, I got an email from Amber Clark, and she told us that there is a ribbon cutting ceremony for a new company in the Downtown Development Authority. That would be the Thatch Computer Consulting Company, which is located at 4747 Okemos Road in the Downtown Development Authority area. That ribbon cutting is for October 22nd at 4 p.m. if anyone is interested in attending that. And that would be it.
So can you elaborate a little bit more on, I guess, the DDA's authority to get a new developer? This is the Downtown Okemos project, right?
Yeah. I was quite surprised because I asked the question during the course of the meeting, why isn't there an actionable time clause in the contract? And I was shocked by the answer. The answer is because there is no contract. And because of that factor, right now there is no irrevocable tie between the township and the developers, which means the township is free to choose a new developer if they just reach an impasse with the current one. And apparently, according to some of the tone of the meeting, I think they're actually pretty close to doing that. Maybe Mr. Schmidt has some additional information on that.
I will
that he can disclose to us.
That he can.
I will say this: they own the property outright. We do not have the ability to simply call another developer and tell them to do the project. It's a unique situation, and because it's so high profile, but it's not unlike the Newton Place project that's been going on since the 07-08 year. It's just a a slow development. Unfortunately, it's a very high profile, slow development. But yes, there's a lot of frustration all around, and we meet with them on the regular to try and push this thing forward. So hopefully we'll see them make a decision here shortly.
I will say, like I say, I'm playing catch up. I'm still trying to figure out all the nuances of what's going on with the DDA. But the impression I got, most of what's happening there is an MUPUD development. And they're trying very hard to take the MU out of the MUPUD. They really are trying to eliminate the multiple use aspect of it and just add apartment buildings or something like that, because those are cheap, they're easy to put up, and they think they're going to be able to fill them. It's the multiple use aspect of it that is what makes it such an attractive option in the first place, and that's the one that seems to be getting all of the close scrutiny, let's say.
Well, and historically, that's how it was pitched, right? It was pitched as 2 stories of commercial, and then it was 1 story of commercial, and then it was, well, maybe half a story of commercial. Yeah, and sounds like they're coming back, and without reading between the lines here, it sounds like they're coming back and saying, how about no commercial?
To be clear, they've not said that.
No, I understand.
They're currently locked down as to what they're. I made that abundantly clear. But it is, much like every mixed use development project in the township, they just want the apartments like everyone else.
Yeah. Okay. I saw Commissioner Snyder and then Commissioner McConnell.
Thank you. I had my hand raised to just say thank you to Commissioner McConnell for attending that Transportation Commission joint meeting with East Lansing and Ingham County Road Department. I just thank you for being there. I appreciate that, and for the report back.
Commissioner McConnell?
Yeah, no problems. I think to the question that Commissioner Bloomer posed about timelines, I was wondering if staff could remind us, is there not a clock on the MUPUD that has been amended?
There is a clock on it. They have until apologies, the original approval predates me, so I have to think here for a second.
No, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but there is a clock that's running on the currently approved and amended MUPUD.
There is a 4-year clock, I believe, from the township's original approval for it to be done.
That was I think July 18 or
yes.
thereabouts. I mean, July or August of 2018.
Actually, I think it was 19 because it's a 19 number in my system.
Okay. There you go.
Either way, they can request 1 extension of that. It's going to get really confusing, basically, if they don't start construction early next year. Really confusing.
And if I can take a second bite of the apple, how that might fit with the Okemos Bridge, Okemos Road Bridge?
It's going to be very difficult to traverse Okemos Road for a while. Ultimately, I will say though that the project itself should largely have no impact on Okemos Road. What's going to have an impact on Okemos Road is the replacement of the bridge, and eventually if the township or the developer buries the power lines. Those are the things that are going to have an impact on Okemos Road. The development itself should be able to be self-contained within the rectangle of Okemos and Ardmore and Methodist, and I'm blanked on the last one, because they have enough space to stage it appropriately on site. Okemos Road construction is really going to be Okemos Road problem.
Well, there were several other pieces of the road that they were going to try to do with this project too, right? There were 2 traffic lights at one point and a reconfiguration of the intersection at Hamilton and Okemos. But I mean, I don't know how long it takes to restripe an intersection, right? That could be a matter of days.
Yeah, if the geometry is there, it's relatively straightforward. It's a matter of whether the road department has the geometry in place.
Right. Okay. Any other questions? Always good to get an update on that project since it's in such a prominent location. Since we're on the topic of PICA area projects, do we have any update on what's going on in the Hazlet PICA?
The senior housing building is still moving along. We've had several meetings with them. For whatever reason, they have not gotten to construction yet. I expect that this is a lumber cost issue and they're essentially gambling that it's going to keep coming down, given that lumber futures are continuing to drop, not as precipitously as they went up. With respect to the remainder of the site, we have had some initial discussions with the potential developer, but nothing has been formally submitted. All I've seen is sort of a back of the napkin concept. So but there is someone floating around right now looking at the rest of the site.
All right. Excellent. All right. Any other liaison reports? Seeing none, we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is project updates. New applications. We have one from Consumers Credit Union, which we will see at our next meeting, it looks like. We've got site plans received, none. Site plans approved, none. Brings us to our last opportunity for public remarks. Once again, if you're in our Zoom meeting and would like to address the Planning Commission, please use the raise hand feature. Otherwise, you can give us a call at 517-349-1232. We'll give you a moment to raise your hand or give us a call. Don't see any hands raised.
You're hearing no phones ring, sir.
No phones ring. We will close public remarks and it would be time to entertain a motion to adjourn. Commissioner Primo, seconded by Commissioner Shrewsbury. All those in favor of adjournment say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
And the Planning Commission stands adjourned at 7:46. Thank you all for your patience with the Zoom meeting again. And
Three times longer than our last meeting, I just want to say.
Well, we started 5 minutes later, which is
Okay.
1/3 of that meeting. So, we'll get there.
Have a good evening. Thank you very much for your patience this evening, folks.
Good
All right,
night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Recording stopped.